Hello and welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and joining us today is Dr. Bradley Nelson. Dr. Brad, how are you?
Oh, great, Chanel. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much for being here. For those of you who aren't familiar with Dr. Brad, I want to give a quick bio so you can know what a superstar we're talking to today. Dr. Bradley Nelson is a holistic chiropractic physician and medical intuitive. He is one of the world's foremost experts in bioenergetic medicine and energy psychology. And he is the author of an awesome book called The Emotion Code. He also created a self-study course called the Body Code System that goes in line with the Emotion Code. Dr. Nelson is an acclaimed and popular speaker, and he travels to countries around the world teaching the Emotion Code. He's been a guest on countless radio and television shows, and we feel honored that he's here with us today. He is also a dad. He's got 7 kids and lives with his wife in southern Utah. So that is quite the impressive bio, and especially the part about 7 kids. I think that's awesome.
Well, technically we have 8 because my about 3 years before I met her, my wife had a baby that she put up for adoption, and about 10 years ago, that daughter found her birth mom, and so we have a whole addition to our family now, and that daughter is 40 and just had a baby girl. She already has 4 boys, and so we were there for the delivery. So.
How cool.
So we're grandparents now. We're kind of like the extra set of grandparents, but it's really fun.
That's so great. Well, congratulations. So,
Thanks.
Yeah, 8 kids and just the 1 grandkid, or you've got...
Five now.
5 grandkids from that daughter. Okay, awesome. Very cool. Well, Dr. Brad, for those people who are not familiar with your work, will you start off by telling us what the Emotion Code is and how it works?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, it's important to understand that the human body is an energy field. Sometimes people say that they don't understand energy medicine or they don't understand energy, but quantum physicists have been telling us for over 100 years now that the human body is really an energy field. It's a very complex energy field, but that's what we are. We're made of pure energy when you get right down to the quantum level, and everything is. And so what happens to us is that sometimes we go through emotional experiences. Sometimes we experience intense negative emotions of anger, resentment, or frustration, or sadness, or grief. We go through a divorce. We're bullied. We have a difficult work situation. We go through a breakup. Things like that happen. And the emotion that we experience during those events can sometimes get trapped in the body. On a quantum level, what's happening when you're feeling an intense emotion is you're feeling a certain vibration, because everything is energy. Every emotion has its own specific vibration. Anger is a different vibration from sadness, and that's different from grief, and they're all different. But when you're feeling an intense emotion, sometimes that emotional energy is so powerful that the body can't really process it very well, and that energy becomes trapped in the body. And we call this a trapped emotion. And a trapped emotion is literally a ball of invisible emotional energy from about the size of a baseball to about the size of a cantaloupe. And it took a long time for me to figure this out because these are completely invisible, but this is what's going on. So when you hear somebody say something like, oh, she just has a lot of emotional baggage, they're saying something that has a profound truth in it. We all have emotional baggage. And the Emotion Code is this method that I was led to develop during all the years that I was in practice, working with all kinds of people of all ages with all kinds of problems, that enables anyone to zero in and find their emotional baggage and actually get rid of it in a very simple, easy, efficient way. That's it.
That's so cool. Now, you mentioned that these emotions become trapped, and I have read your book, and it said in there, we don't know why these emotions become trapped. Do you have any thoughts, though, on any guesses as you've worked with these emotions or anything that you've discovered since writing the book on why they're getting trapped in there in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I think that we really still don't quite know, but we do know that trapped emotions will tend to lodge in the body in areas where there might be either some kind of a metaphysical significance, or maybe there is some kind of underlying injury or weakness. And oftentimes what happens to us is that these emotions are things we may not even remember. In fact, it's possible to pick up emotions during the time that you're in the womb. Typically, they're emotions that your mother is going through. You can absorb those as a baby and be born with emotional baggage already. Not only that, you can inherit emotional baggage from mom or dad at the moment of conception. And those emotions they might have gotten when they were conceived from their mom or dad, and sometimes these will go back 10 or 20 generations. And so the result of all of this is that just about everybody on the planet is living their life in a diminished way. In other words, we're all dragging emotional baggage, some of it from our own life, some of it from the time that we were very young or even in the womb, and some of the baggage that we're dragging through life is not even our fault. It's from our ancestors. It's from the stuff that they went through. But the emotion code enables anyone to quickly zero in and find this baggage and get rid of it. And the reality of it is, we are beings of pure energy. And when you think about that and you realize, you make a list of all the top physicians throughout the world who have said energy medicine is the next frontier, energy medicine is the future. We like to say that the emotion code and the body code as well are really the future of energy medicine, because they are really so simple and yet so powerful. Let me give you some examples. There was a woman that I was talking to recently who was telling me that she got the emotion code book and the book on audio, started reading it and listening to it. And her son started reading it and listening to it. And he started practicing with his friends, and she didn't pay much attention. But a couple of weeks later, the phone rang. And the woman on the other end of the phone identified herself as the mother of one of this woman's son's friends. And she said, your son's been doing this emotion thing with the other boys. And she said, I have to tell you, something really amazing has happened. She said, my son has had a severe phobia of water all of his life. And we've taken him to everybody we could think of. We've tried everything to fix it. Nothing has ever touched this. She said, right now, I'm at the community pool. She said, my son is swimming in the pool, playing with the other boys in the water, she said, for the first time in his life. She said, I can't wrap my mind around this. It's unbelievable. She said,
That's awesome.
She said, your son did this to him. How is this even possible? What in the world is he doing? And those two boys are only 11 years old, see? And that's how easy and yet how powerful this can be. And we have, literally thousands of testimonials from all over the world. We have practitioners that we've certified in about 64 countries now, over 3,000 practitioners who do this work, and it's just simple and it works. And the proof is in the pudding.
That's so cool. I love it. I love that example that you shared, because it is so simple to actually do the work. Like you said, the 11-year-old boys can do it. And I also like that there are practitioners if you want more help. And my husband and I have used the emotion code, and we've done both. We've done it on our own, but sometimes you feel like you just want a little extra help and you want to make sure you're doing it right and finding everything. And so we have used practitioners and gotten help with that. Okay, so Dr. Brad, for people who aren't familiar with, what we're talking about, they probably are very interested in getting rid of their trapped emotions, but can you explain more about how that process works?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, you have to understand that the information about the emotional baggage that you have is not really known to your conscious mind I mean, you may be able to recall some emotional events that you've gone through, but you don't know if you have emotional baggage about those events or not, because not everything that you experience will result in emotional baggage or trapped emotions. For example, sometimes we find that people have picked up emotional baggage from the time that they were in the womb because their mother was experiencing some intense emotions and they picked that up as a fetus. Sometimes we inherit emotional baggage at the moment of conception from mom or dad that they might have picked up when they were conceived from their mom or dad, and this can go back sometimes 10 or 20 generations, sometimes more. So the subconscious mind, you see, knows about what emotional baggage you have, and it knows with a perfect understanding. You see, we live in what we call the conscious mind, and the conscious mind is not really, it doesn't really have that much room for data. So we forget things all the time as human beings. We get in trouble because we forget things. Right? You've probably forgotten something significant in the last
I forget
week,
things
right?
all the time, yes.
I know, right? We do things like we'll get up and go to another room in the house, and then we'll get there and we'll wonder, why am I here?
Yep.
Okay. Well, anyway, the subconscious mind is that vast, incredibly intelligent computer system that is within each one of us. And I like to think of it really as just the spirit within us. It's so intelligent. It's been alive forever, and it'll be alive forever. And it knows everything that's going on in our bodies. It knows exactly what emotional baggage we have, when those things occurred, who was involved, etc. And so the first thing we have to do is tap into that subconscious mind, or that spirit really within us, because the conscious mind doesn't really know, but the subconscious mind does. So what we do is we have various different methods of getting information from the subconscious mind. And I can share one of those methods with your listeners right now that's really simple.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what we call the sway test. Now, here's how this works. If you think about a plant will naturally grow towards a light coming in from a window. They've done studies where they'll put a plant in a room, they'll put a speaker in the room that's playing beautiful, soothing music and lullabies 24 hours a day, and the plant will actually grow towards the sound coming out of that speaker. Did you know that?
Yes, well, because I've read your book.
Oh, right. It's interesting, too, because if they put a speaker in the room and it's playing harsh, grating sounds or, screamo music, things like that, the plant will grow away from that, trying to get away from it. Now, the human body is also capable of giving us answers if we pose questions, because the subconscious mind will tend to make us sway forward if we're standing, very relaxed. Your body will tend to sway forwards if you're holding thoughts of truth or positivity or congruency. On the other hand, the body will tend to sway backwards if you're holding thoughts of falsehood or incongruency, etc. And so, here's how we do this. To follow along with me, what you can do is you can stand and drop your hands to your sides and just close your eyes and just totally relax. And as you're standing there, very relaxed, what you'll notice is that there's a little bit of movement going on in the body, a little bit of oscillation happening. That's normal. That's just your postural muscles working to keep you standing upright and keep you from falling over. But now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to focus on something negative to start with. Let's think about the word war. If you think about that word, we've heard that word all of our lives, right? If you think about that word for a moment and actually think for a moment, what really goes on in war? What are people doing to other people in war? What's happening? And, what's happening to villages and what's happening to families? And think of all of the people that have been killed or injured or maimed or crippled in all the wars that have been fought on this planet from day one. Think of all the countless tears that have been shed for all the damage that's been done, all the families destroyed, all the lives destroyed and ruined because of war on this planet. Now, as you're thinking about what war really means, the moment your subconscious mind connects with what your conscious mind is thinking, and it really connects with what that word really truly means, at that moment, your subconscious mind will take effect, and it will start to move your body away from that thought, and your body will start to sway backwards. And that's your body attempting to move away from the sheer negativity of that thought of war. Now let's shift to something really, really positive, okay? I'd like you to, again, just stand there, arms drop to your sides, totally relaxed, and I'd like you now to think about unconditional love. Just imagine that your heart is full of unconditional love for somebody or something. Maybe there's someone that you can generate that for or feel that for. Maybe it's a parent or a child. Maybe it's your spouse or someone else, maybe a teacher. But as you allow your heart to fill with love, and maybe even gratitude for that person, as you allow your heart to fill with those emotions, those high, high vibrations, what you'll notice is, before long, you'll find that your body is swaying forward. And that's your subconscious mind trying to move you physically towards that incredibly powerful vibration of love and gratitude. And so this is what we call the sway test. Now, what you can do, you see, the body will respond to what you're thinking. And so you can actually pose questions in the subconscious mind, or in the conscious mind, that the subconscious mind will pick up and then will respond to. So, for example, you can hold a thought. Think about this. Hold this thought. Do I have trapped emotions? Do I have trapped emotions? Hold that thought in your mind, and your body will sway forward if the answer is yes, and it will sway backward if the answer is no. And it might take 10 seconds or maybe even 20 seconds for the body to respond to this. The more you do this test, the faster the body responds. Do I have trapped emotions? And whichever way your body swayed on that one, you can throw another question at the body, and then I'll explain what this means. And this next question is, do I have a heart wall? So pose that question. Do I have a heart wall? Do I have a heart wall? Believe me, your subconscious mind knows what this heart wall thing is. Even if you've never heard of it, it doesn't matter. Your subconscious mind knows. So this is one of the methods that we teach that enables people to access the information that's in their subconscious mind. We teach a lot of other methods, but basically it's a simple matter of asking the subconscious mind questions, yes or no questions, and getting answers, and then going through this very simple outline that we give you to find the emotional baggage you have and release it. We have a chart of 60 emotions. It's divided up into 2 columns and 6 rows, and you can very rapidly zero in and identify the emotional baggage that you have without any trouble and get rid of it.
Okay, so I have used this method, and the sway test is my favorite just because I think it's easiest to read. I've tried other methods in the book, and I overthink it. I confuse myself. And so, yeah, if you guys, hopefully you were following along and doing that, it's really interesting because I think even for the skeptics out there, you are able to feel something in your body. Your body responds, and that's a really cool thing. And then, like Dr. Brad said, you can follow along on the chart and you find these emotions that you didn't even know were trapped in your body. So it's a very interesting process and really different than what, the mainstream things that we're hearing about. So do you get a lot of, skeptics? Do you hear a lot of people that are skeptical about your work, and how do you respond to them?
I really don't. What I get is people. For example, we did an event in Las Vegas a few days ago, and there were a pretty big number of people who came to me who were so grateful that their lives have changed. People with tears in their eyes. I mean, I've had more people come up to me and tell me that they're so grateful because this has changed their whole entire life that I've completely lost count. I mean, it's an amazing thing. No, we don't have any people that are skeptical. In fact, what we have are people of all stripes. We have medical doctors, we have lawyers, we have all kinds of people from all kinds of professions who are finding out that this is real. I mean, if people are really stuck in the Western medical model, if people believe the propaganda that's put out by the drug companies that you need to buy their drugs to be healthy, if that's where you are, then those kind of people, those people don't show up in our world. They're in their own world, and they're the ones that eventually might end up doing this work. But that's the reality, is that the human body is an energy field. It's a very complex energy field, and energy medicine is absolutely the future. It really, truly is. And the emotion code, it's just the simplest way to get rid of that emotional baggage. Yeah. Now, I did mention the heart wall, so I probably should say something about that.
Talk a little more about the heart wall.
Well, what we found a number of years ago is that when you feel like your heart is going to break, your subconscious mind will put up a wall around that heart. And that wall is a literal thing. It's made of energy. It's made from the energy of your emotional baggage. Now, I never would have imagined this myself, but the ancient societies believed that the heart was the seat of the soul, the source of love and creativity, and the core of your being. And in the West, we haven't really believed any of those things. We've just have believed and been taught that the heart is just a pump, and that's all it is. But now we have new instrumentation that's coming out that's showing us that the heart is exactly what those ancient peoples believed it to be. They've done studies, for example, that now find that the heart puts out a magnetic field that extends 12 feet around the body. And if one person is feeling love or affection for another person, there are measurable effects on that other person's body, whether they know about that other person feeling love or affection for them or not.
That just blows your mind, right? That's so cool.
Sure. It's mind-blowing, but this is reality. And in fact, that person's heartbeat will appear and become measurable in the brain waves of that person that they're feeling love or affection for. So you see, there's this invisible energy going on all the time. I mean, for example, a lot of us have experienced this. If you're sitting in the back of maybe a boring meeting and you're staring absent-mindedly at the back of somebody's head that's 6 rows up, what happens? You stare at the back of their head for very long, they're going to turn right around and look right into your eyes. How do they know that you're looking at the back of their head? I mean, there's this invisible thing going on that we're not aware of. But what happens is, what we find now, that about 93% of people at some point in their life have put up this wall around their heart. And what it does is it interferes with their ability to really connect with their higher power. It interferes with their ability to give and receive love and to manifest the perfect blueprint for their life that is held within their heart. Think about this. I mean, back in the 1960s, when doctors started doing heart transplants, people started coming back to them and saying, hey, I have weird things going on. My taste in music or sports or food has completely changed. My handwriting has completely changed. I have memories of places that I know I have never, ever been to in my life, and I have memories now of being there. Am I losing my mind? And in every case, when those people were connected up with the families of the heart donors, they would find, well, yes, that's my son's handwriting that you have now. Or, yes, our daughter went to all those places around the world. Or, well, yes, our son was a big baseball fan, and now you are too. I mean, it's amazing stuff, right? And there are whole books written about this, and it's called cellular memory. But it's a fascinating thing. But this discovery of the heart wall has been called the most important discovery in the history of energy medicine, because when that wall is taken down, people fall in love who never thought they would. People find success and abundance coming to them spontaneously. Let me tell you one quick story.
Sure.
There was a woman who came to me not long after we discovered this. She came to me for neck pain. She'd seen a couple of other doctors, and they hadn't made any success with her. So she came to see me, and as I was talking with her, she told me that she was single, and she'd been single She hadn't dated in 8 years. She was never going to date again. She was going to die single. She was celibate, basically. And she was only 38 years old, and she was an attractive person. And I said, well, what happened to you? Why do you feel that way? And she said that 8 years before, she was deeply in love with this guy who dumped her and broke her heart. Now, during that breakup, the emotions were very powerful, very overwhelming to the body, and those emotions became trapped in her body and formed into a wall around her heart. There were 3 emotions. I cleared those 3 emotions. It probably took me about 10 minutes is all. And suddenly, with the release of that wall, when that wall around her heart was gone, suddenly her neck pain was gone too. I didn't have to touch her neck at all. And I didn't see her again for 3 months. And when she came back into the office, I'll always remember this. I said, hey, you look great. What's going on? She said, my neck is great. She said, I have no problem since I was here. But she said, I need to tell you. She said, you cleared that heart wall for me, and that really works because, she said, about 2 weeks after I was here, I found out my childhood sweetheart has been living right around the corner from me for almost 8 years. And we're in love, and I think he's going to ask me to marry him. And so her life had totally changed.
Wow.
Now think about this. Her childhood sweetheart had been living right around the corner from her. I mean, less than a block away for almost 8 years, and she'd never run into him. Why? Because she had this wall around her heart, and it was going to keep her blocked. And so this is the kind of thing that, if you've been through a divorce, you've got a heart wall. If you've been bullied as a kid, you've got a heart wall. If you've been through anything very traumatic, you've got a heart wall. And that's why we see 93% of people having this. But when that wall is taken down, people fall in love, even at advanced ages. People who have never been married before, even in their 80s, are falling in love. And it's really just the most amazing thing. And people also, perhaps more importantly, people find and tell us that for the first time in their lives, they can feel God's love for them that they were never able to feel before. Think about that. It's an amazing thing. It really, truly is.
That's huge. I mean, it's just so cool to think about. In your book, you mentioned ancient societies kind of understood things about this. We know the Chinese have their qi, and there's the prana and, the yogic traditions and things. But here, this is so foreign to us, and yet it rings so true. We get it because, because there is truth there, and because even these phrases that you use, like emotional baggage, we get that. We understand it. We get it. And yet we have decided in our, modern knowledge that that's not a real thing. And yet when you actually do the work, you realize that there is something there. So we're about out of time, but I do have one more question that I really wanted to talk to you about. You've been doing this work for a long time. So for you personally, is the work done? Have you released all your trapped emotions, or is it an ongoing process? Is the work ever, you can say, well, I'm done with the emotion code, I finished that, or how does that process work?
Well, during the exercise that we just did, I actually was testing myself, and I didn't find anything going on. But one of the things that we have learned is that you can clear probably 80 or 90% of your own imbalances yourself just using the emotion codes. Really, really simple. But it's a good idea to get somebody else to help you, because there are some things that are so deep that you might not be able to find. And so the reality of it is, for example, if you're working on a child, it might take a session or two. Maybe you might release 8 or 10 emotions, and then they're done. And it's a beautiful way to raise kids, because you can keep them pretty much trapped emotion free. When they go through some emotional event, you can check them and release whatever baggage they might have picked up. And what a wonderful way to live your life free of this kind of baggage. So yeah, you can actually get rid of all your emotional baggage, but sometimes there can be deep things that may not show up right away. You might think that you've cleared everything. For example, my daughter worked on me one day, 2 years after the Emotion Code book was published. She found an inherited emotion of hopelessness that I'd gotten from my father, that he got from his mother, that she got from her mother, that went back 22 generations to a grandmother of mine in Ireland who lived in the 1500s, we think. And she had passed this emotion of hopelessness down to me. And when my daughter found that, she was working on me at a distance, which is one of the things we teach how to do in the book. When she found that, she suddenly felt the presence of this grandmother standing right next to her, and she could feel how desperate she was to have this emotional energy released from her posterity. And she could also feel how overwhelmed with gratitude she was when that was released. That release of that emotion of hopelessness changed my life. It really did. And I had never found it myself. Someone else had to find it for me. But, this is so easy to do. You can have people help you. But the beauty of it is, we all have emotional baggage. And I'll tell you, this work came about because I was in the habit of asking for help from God with each person that I saw. It was a totally private, totally personal thing. But for 17 years in my brick and mortar practice, and then for 2 years in my remote practice, every time I worked on somebody, my policy, my habit was to take a moment and ask for help. Father in heaven, please help me to help this person. And that's really where this work came from. I don't take any credit for it. I'm just the person that it was given to, and my job is to take it to the world. In fact, I have a free gift for your listeners.
Oh, great.
If they want to listen to the book on audio, they want to read the book, here's a free gift for you, free audio book, free ebook. Go to emotioncodegift.com. It's emotioncodegift.com. And you can download the book on audio and download the book as a PDF. You can start reading it and listening to it. It's totally free. There's no string attached at all. And because we want this to get out to the world as fast as possible. We also have the book. You can go to the App Store, the Apple App Store, and you can download the Emotion Code and listen to it and read it as well. And I believe it's $1.99 on the App Store. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that gift and for being here with us today. And I encourage everyone to check it out. I think that especially as moms, I love what you said about using this on our children and kind of releasing those emotions as we go. That's something we have used with our kids, but I could definitely do more. So that's something I'm going to put into practice. And I encourage all of you to go to emotioncodegift.com, read it, learn more about it, and tell me what you think. And Dr. Brad, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Chanel. I really appreciate it.